It's a Twitch not. Line up.
Alright, well, let's pray that's working. I'm gonna let the rest of this song play, so there's gonna be about 3 minutes left until live.
Cool.
Okay, I think we're fully live on Twitch.
Cool.
Can I see that paper back in here? I think I'm going to start off just by asking, like, what are your personal relations to Palestine and the whole cause? So that's first topic of choice, I guess. Did you guys happen to bring anything that you would want to address specifically while on air?
Well, I'm from Gaza. My family's from Gaza, so one of the things that probably I want to address is the way that my dad is an American citizen. He is in Gaza, but the U.S. is not doing much to get him out there. While we've seen how they quickly reacted to get Israeli American out, not the Palestinian Americans. And then I guess the other thing, and I think you had it in your list, is how everybody's focusing on the cause of the current events, but nobody is talking about the historical context of the conflict and the Palestinians have been living October 7th since 1948. Yeah, what's your major?
I'm a gender studies major, but I'm pre-physical therapy.
Oh.
So I'm hoping to get into a PT program soon, but if not, I'll figure out what I have to do, so.
Like what we can show.
Inshallah, thank you. This is so interesting. I've never been on a radio show.
I've been in this, you guys had your offices by the...
The which one?
Your studio used to be by the field house, right?
Oh, I have no idea. I've only been here, this is what, 2.5 years?
Yeah.
And so anything prior to that, I have no idea what the old office was. But 5 seconds, here we go. And we are live, we're live on KRUI. You're listening to Save the Vibes. I'm your host, Sweet Jorna. And we've got a bit of a different episode today, a different format. Typically on this show, we're mostly strictly news and then a little bit of analysis of that news afterwards. But we don't often focus on the human element of what goes on and the issues that we discuss on this show. So today I've got 2 guests in the studio here with me. Would you all mind doing an introduction, a quick introduction? What's your, I guess just names you would like to be referred to on the radio? And also, what are your connections to Palestine and the Palestinian cause?
My name is Jenna. I'm a student at the University of Iowa, and my relationship to the Palestinian cause is I am Palestinian. So for me, there's a specific pride and honor with being Palestinian and fighting for the freedom and liberation of Palestine. So.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Yasser. I'm a member of the Iowa City KRUI community here. And I'm originally from the Gaza Strip, Palestinian American, and I still have family there, so it's very important to keep track of what's going on and try to help the people on the ground.
So, with both of you being can I ask you? You've both been to Palestine, yes? Or you said you're from Palestine. Have you been to Palestine before?
Yeah, so we try to go like every other summer, depending on what's going on, obviously. But I went last summer, and I'm trying to go this summer again. So as like a graduation gift, I'm trying to convince my mom to like help me get there. But yeah, so we go as frequently as we can.
Okay, can I ask a little bit about what's the process like of traveling to Palestine? I know that it's incredibly complex to travel if you are in Palestine, considering all of the checkpoints and like getting into Israel and then flights and whatnot. What is it like actually traveling there, especially with kind of the, I guess, quote unquote privilege of like American citizenship?
Yes, so my family's from the West Bank, and I don't have Palestinian ID, so that means I have to fly through Tel Aviv. So when I fly through Tel Aviv, it's actually super interesting because once I turned 18, they would like hold me at the airport, even with my American passport. They would see my mom, they would see my family, and we're clearly not like Israeli Jewish people. So they would see my name and then they would just say like, okay, we're gonna hold Jenna's passport, and then they would say you have to go sit here, and my mom like can't wait with me. So at the Tel Aviv airport, I'm sitting there for like 2 hours, and I'm waiting for them to give me back my passport, and like the questions they ask are just very like, just so random. They're like, oh, how long are you gonna be here for? Who is like this specific person in your family lineage? Like all these really random questions, and they continuously will go like on and off of like, oh, okay, we'll be right back. We'll come and ask you some more questions. So that's my like time in the airport. At least I get held for like a good amount of time. And then just traveling within Palestine, there are like a lot of checkpoints, and it's not fun, especially if you're trying to go to Jerusalem. There's like these big buses that will take people to go to Jerusalem, obviously to see Al-Aqsa. And sometimes there was one time I was going with my grandparents, and this like Israeli soldier came on the bus like fully like with his weapons and everything. He's like checking all of our IDs, and then like it's kind of like a scare tactic, I would say. So it's not fun, but you have to just be strong when you go through these checkpoints and this discrimination basically. So.
You said your experience at the airport, has that always been a thing despite what age you are? Do they have any consideration as to like children in these like, I guess, what are they called, depositions?
No, I don't think I've ever seen a kid younger than, I don't know, 16. I think 18 for me is when it started. My dad, they used to hold a lot. My dad is Pakistani, so I think they just held him because his name wasn't like Arab or Jewish, and they were like, what are you doing here? But they used to hold him a lot. But I recently just became like, so when I turned 18, I started getting held at the airport, so.
Okay. And
traveling to Gaza is a different story because Gaza has been under strict strangulating blockade for the last 2 decades, and it's enforced both by Israel and of course Egypt has to enforce it because the U.S. had linked that enforcement to the military aid that's in the $2 billion that goes to Egypt and $4 billion that goes to Israel. So the last time I went, so I can't fly into Israel, of course, because I'm Palestinian from Gaza, even though I'm an American citizen. Mm-hmm. It's really frustrating that you're an American citizen, but and you pay the state of Israel from my tax money, $4 billion, and I cannot even fly to a place that I actually was born in. While any Zionist from all over the world can go there and take my land just because they are Zionist, Jewish, but me that was born there, I can't even fly into my homeland. So the last time we went and I took my kids to visit their grandparents, we flew to Cairo, and the drive from Cairo to the border was supposed to be about 5 to 6 hours, but it took us 3 days to get there. A lot of checkpoints. We had to spend the night on the. There's a big checkpoint on the Suez Canal that we had to spend the night in the middle of the desert, and no access to water, bathrooms, or anything. And then the same thing in the Sinai desert, we spent another night until we were able to reach the borders. And just getting into the border is chaotic and really no sense of organization or anything. It's just they will search everything and they will humiliate you just to discourage anybody to go and see what's going on in Gaza.
Can I ask, these searches that happen, there's like no list of anything they're looking for, it's just kind of to make living travel as inconvenient as possible?
Yeah, the advertised reason for the blockade is not to allow weapons or material to Hamas, but no questions were asked, or they were not looking for any specific things. They just make it hard for us to just go there, and that's the unannounced reason of the blockade, is to really just prevent anybody from the outside world to know what's going on in Gaza, and also subjugate the people of Gaza to an inhumane situation. And the Israeli government has said that before. A dominated, ration-dependent people are easy to dominate. So it's the whole idea is that they want the people of Gaza to roll and die and accept their situation, accept that they will live in refugee camp for the rest of their life. They accept the occupation, accept the ethnic cleansing of their ancestors. So it's not, there is no rationale for what they're doing with the blockade to Gaza.
You said in traveling to Gaza from Cairo, you encountered several checkpoints on the way that they were not all specifically at the Gaza Strip, the border to the Gaza Strip, correct?
They're actually there's a specific route for the Palestinians that they wanted to go to the border, and even like over the Suez Canal, there is multiple tunnels and multiple bridges, but the Palestinians are not allowed to use them, and they have to use a ferry, and there's a checkpoint before that, and there's a strict process of checking everything, and it takes a whole day just to cross the canal, which is a 5-minute ferry ride. So it's specific for the Palestinians that they're going to Gaza Strip, or anybody is going to Gaza Strip, whether they're Palestinians or usually internationals are not allowed altogether because they don't want anybody to see what's going on.
These checkpoints that aren't at the border, are they still being operated by Israeli forces, or is this like an institute, a collaboration with the Egyptian forces, as well as the IDF, or I'm sorry, whoever's running the checkpoints?
Yeah, no, it's run by the Egyptian, but it's part of the agreement that was Egypt signed with the U.S. and Israel to keep a tight blockade on the Gaza Strip. So the guidelines is coming from unfortunately from our government here, from the U.S. and from Israel, to keep the blockade and make sure that only the people that they need to go, they have like first family connection that they can go. Of course, I have brothers and sisters, and I have my parents live there, so they cannot not allow me to go in, but at the same time they wanted to discourage anybody to go, and that's the thing, and they're doing really a good job of doing that.
Has this, I guess, cooperation with with making life as miserable as possible for Palestinians, with other countries kind of being complacent or, I guess, cooperating in that, has that, and like a human element, has that caused any rifts between the communities? I've noticed in the activism community in the Arab world, it's pretty tight-knit for the most part. And have those, I guess what I'm asking is there any personal rift between Palestinians and any other Arab communities, even on an international scale? Is there any like ill will or, I guess, mal-relationships between those, considering that the governments are kind of cooperating with Israel on this? Just a little bit.
I don't think that a lot of Arab people identify with their government a lot of the time. And I think that Palestine is a trademark for the Arab world. I don't know many Arabs or Muslims or North African people who don't stand with the Palestinian people and the Palestinian cause. So I think that a lot of times it's their governments trying to benefit themselves, either financially, in some manner of power. But I don't think I've ever met like an Arab, North African, MENA person, Swana person, whatever you want to call the region, that's against Palestine anyway. Or like these cooperations, I don't think they've created any rifts between the communities solely because, like, I know a lot of Egyptians that don't agree with their government, a lot of Syrians that don't agree with their government. So I don't think that it causes like that much of a thing. I could be wrong, but yes, what do you think?
No, absolutely. I guess at the popular level, everybody is sympathetic to the Palestinians, and they know, because they know what's going on. There is about 6 million Palestinian refugees that cleansed from their home, and a lot of them lives in the neighboring Arab countries, that they have been living in refugee camps for 75 years. They don't know what the Palestinians went through and the oppression that has been happening to the Palestinian people. So it's hard not to be sympathetic with the Palestinian cause in the area. I guess as Jenna said, there's disconnect between the leadership and the Arabs and population, and mainly because most of those regimes are propped by unfortunately the Western. They are remnant from the colonial time when Europe was colonizing the area, and a lot of them were put in their place, like the monarchy in Jordan and the monarchy in Saudi Arabia, and even the supposedly democratically elected government in Egypt. They're all either supported by the U.S. or by Europe to keep them in control.
I guess sort of shifting back to, I guess, a more domestic experience in the U.S. There have been several demonstrations in the Iowa City area and surrounding other cities, really all across the nation and across the world, but specifically in Iowa. The turnouts, I was at the demonstration that was last weekend. That was a really good turnout.
Yeah, it was.
Was all of this support anticipated? Was it known that Iowa City, even across the world from Palestine, had this kind of support?
I mean, I was kind of shocked. I was one of the organizers for the Saturday demonstration, and I know you also, they organize like every Friday protest. But that Saturday when I was like actually like so amazed at how many people ended up showing up, I honestly thought it was going to be maybe 50 people. But I think we counted like the list of names that we had, and it was at least 200 people, which was amazing. Which I think I didn't really expect from the Iowa City community, because, you know, you look here and it's just very much like we are living in our own American bubble, and I don't think a lot of people think outside of that.
The Midwest being the backyard of America.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just very shocked to see this many people, you know, come and support. I also think it kind of somewhat has something to do with just like the ideology of neoliberalism here, just in the sense that, like, you know, a lot of people do this because it's quote unquote like the opposite of like what conservatives would do, which I mean, I'm not complaining because I love the support, but I think that also is a big factor into why we get so many people to come join us. But yeah, it's amazing to see this much support from Iowa City, and again, you see like places in Des Moines, Cedar Rapids even has like pretty big turnout. So it's just it's like almost shocking because I'm like I didn't even know this many people like knew what Palestine was in Iowa. But yeah, it really did like motivate me to like continue to keep organizing and to continue to participate in everything else going on in Iowa City.
Mm-hmm. Did these protests did these turnouts have any impact on you specifically in the Iowa for Palestine group?
Well, I guess it was really nice to see people coming out in support of human rights and in support of the people and the children that they are killed every day in Gaza, and it was really heartwarming to see that movement. And at the same time, I'm not surprised of the number of the sympathetic people and supportive people. It's just I was surprised at the scare tactics that the media had been employing, and even the government, the official narrative of what's happening in Gaza and Palestine in general did not scare the people from coming out, because once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. And now everything is in the open, and especially that now people have access to information other than the mainstream media that is painting the Palestinian cause as being sympathetic to terrorism rather than being sympathetic to human rights and sympathetic to freedom. So, and I've been involved in some of the activism and not only for the Palestinian cause, for other freedom of speech, for Black Lives Matters and all that stuff. And I know that there is a supportive movement here in Iowa City, but I was really surprised and really touched by the amount of support that we got here from the community.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note the fact that like media is so harsh on people who are pro-Palestine. It's very easy to kind of suppress these people. There are places like Canary Mission, which I don't know if you've heard of. It's like a website that...
No, I'm not familiar.
So it's like this website that Zionists have made to essentially like blacklist any like pro-Palestinian person from getting a job. It's like really geared for students. So if you look at Chicago, the SJPs, which is Students for Justice for Palestine, like student orgs, a lot of them do demonstrations, and so a lot of the times their names and their information, like places they live, places they've worked, things they've posted, are all put on this website by Zionist individuals. And a lot of companies, which I don't think they should be looking at this, but do look at this, and that's why a lot of these students and people who are looking for jobs get blacklisted and can't really progress in any of the fields that they want to pursue. So there are like websites like that. So I think, like Yasser said, I was just almost shocked because of, I thought people would be more scared of what would the consequences be if they did come support, if their faces were shown on the media, if they, did speak out against Israel. So I think that's where my shock kind of came from, because there is such, such strong fear tactics in America to continue to support Israel.
I guess a general note to more listeners here, this is kind of touching on what we covered last week on the show about how America and the greater domestic media in the U.S. has kind of essentially trapped themselves in unequivocal support for Israel. And so it's not leaving much room for supporting Palestine, for getting people on board with the liberation of Palestine, because there are a lot of fear tactics happening to suppress support for Palestinians. And I wanted to ask, on the topic of activism, is there anything that people should probably shy away from with activism? You mentioned earlier that some people, especially on a college campus, kind of showing up just to be rabble-rousers, just to hop on board and I guess be anti-establishment just because being a rebel without a cause. Is there anything similar to that along those lines that I guess people that don't have a tie to Palestine should maybe shy away from, because it's not really helping.
I guess one of the things is the mainstream media and even our politicians, unfortunately, equate the pro-Palestinian movement to an anti-Semitic, and by no means, at least I'm talking about Palestinians, are anti-Semitic. Actually, before the creation of the Jewish-only state of Israel in Palestine, and I'm talking from stories my grandparents were telling me that Muslim, Christian, and Jews were living together in peace while Jews being slaughtered in Europe. Actually, Palestinians had opened their homes and villages and hearts to refugees coming from Europe. So I wanted to make sure that the pro-Palestinian, pro-human rights, pro-justice movement that we lead by no means is an anti-Semitic, but that's what we wanted to stress and wanted to make sure that anybody wanted to come and join us, make sure that they are not of the kind that they are racist or anti any kind of religion or race or ethnicity. We are pro justice. That's what we are.
Yeah, that's another note. I guess the media has been using as a scare tactic. Anyone saying the rallying cry from the river to the sea is suddenly anti-Semitic. Do you have any, I guess more personal, do you have any thoughts on the whole from the river to the sea thing being equated to, I guess, the complete dissolution of the Israeli state? What does from the river to the sea truly mean?
I think for me it just means a liberated, free Palestine. I don't think that means necessarily anything anti-Semitic. And again, I think relating anti-Semitism to any type of movement for Palestine is, again, it's a tactic to keep people quiet and suppress people from talking about Palestine. And I think from the river to the sea, honestly, for me, just means, there is a free Palestine, there's no more apartheid, there's no more ethnic cleansing. And honestly, if you look at the definition of the words, like a Semite is a person who speaks Arabic or is Arab or Jewish. And so, if you look at it, anti-Semitism is happening in Israel, but it's not towards the Jewish people. And I think it's also interesting to note the fact that, Jewish people are so quick to victimize. I don't want to say Jewish people, Zionist people are so quick to victimize themselves, facing any type of violence or just anything against Israel, basically, right? They're like, I'm the victim here. We went through the Holocaust. We did this and all that stuff. And it's like, if you look at the parallels between the Holocaust and what's happening in Palestine right now, you would think that more Zionist Jewish people would be on our side almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just a tactic to call everything anti-Semitic because, it's a way to get people to shut up about Palestine. But yeah.
And if you look at what the sea is the Mediterranean Sea and the river is the Jordan River, and if you look at that area, there is about 6 million Palestinians live there, and they are treated as second-class or third-class citizens. They are subjugated to ethnic cleansing, home demolition, bombing campaigns, and so on and so forth. And the idea is that the Palestinians that they live in that area are free from all that injustice. That's what it means. By no means it means that this will mean the annihilation of the Israeli people, but at the same time it means that the Palestinians that they live in that area are equivalent and are treated just, and all the injustice is removed, and they are free from all this subjugated tactics that has been employed against them since the creation of the State of Israel. As I said, the Palestinians have nothing against the Jews. Actually, they're part of the community before the creation of it's Israel that excluded the Palestinians from their own land, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. I guess addressing the topic of equality for all, equality for everyone living in the region. assuming this equality comes, I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to phrase this question here. I want to say, with equality, the equality of Palestinians as well as the Israelis living in the area, what is the future? Where is Israel in the future of a free Palestine? I don't want to.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm
No,
kind
no,
It's a valid question, and the I guess the best example that you can look at is what happened in apartheid South Africa. That after the end of the apartheid system, whites are not wiped out. They are part of the community as equals, not as masters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I see it. The land belongs to the people that they live in it. So if the apartheid regime in Israel goes away, then Israeli Palestinians or Christians or Muslims are all going to be equal, and they will live in one state that all the rights for minority or majorities are protected by the Constitution, and everybody is treated equal. And it doesn't matter what the name of the state is. It's going to be Israel Palestine or Israel and Palestine or Israel Palestine or whatever. But it's the idea of everybody is treated equally, that they live in the land. No master, no slaves, no second-class citizen, no first-class citizen. Everybody is equal because we're all humans.
I know that in the cause it can be, it's one point, despite how cohesive the entire community in showing solidarity for Palestine is, it's still kind of a touchy subject. People argue over whether there should be a one-state or a two-state solution. Is this should the states be integrated, or should they be very strictly divorced from one another? So the topic of equality implies that this is a kind of a one state, people can live in conjunction with one another. Is that what I'm picking up?
I think that's the majority of the Palestinian people. They want a one state solution. In my opinion, I would want one state called Palestine under Palestinian government, right? That would be like ideal, because that's what it was before Israel came and colonized the land. But I think integration is the only option, because I don't think a two-state solution is going to work. Like, I just don't. I see it turning to be a very similar thing that's going on right now. I mean, you look at like the two territories of the West Bank and Gaza, right? Like, these are, I mean, not equal, but they are essentially two lands for two different people. And I think that causes a lot of discrimination and racism and just, basically apartheid. And I don't think, in my opinion, I do not think a two-state solution will work. And I think integration is the only option. Equality is the only option, justice is the only option, so.
Right, we fixed the conflict.
Yeah, right, it's like solved.
No. To be fair, I wanted to say this as like someone studying political science, but I've been hesitant to I guess promote the idea, since I'm so not involved in the conflict. I have no stake, no relation to it. But a two-state solution was already attempted. The UN was already involved as a third-party mediator, and the two-state solution didn't work out. It seems like it only exacerbated the problem by forcing two people that do not, I guess, fundamentally disagree with one another to be separate, but also immediately next to one another. It seemed like that exacerbated the issue. I feel like I've covered most all of my questions. Oh, you know what? On the point of activism, really the primary thing that's promoted to, I guess, Americans specifically is the whole boycott issue. Do you have any specific takes on the calls for boycotts?
I think boycotting is severely important in the Palestinian movement. I think, in a capitalistic society, the dollar is our weapon, right? Like, this is how you're going to stop people from funding this genocide, funding apartheid. So I love boycotting. I deleted all my apps. I deleted Starbucks. I deleted Dunkin'. I got my money back. All this stuff. And I think it's it's important because, like, you look at South Africa. I mean, boycotting worked and had a huge impact on their movement and their liberation to freedom, basically. So I think that boycotting is a great avenue of activism, especially because, again, we live in a capitalistic society, so the dollar is just so strong here. But yeah.
I guess also boycotting is part of our culture here as American, and it's part of the Second Amendment, freedom of speech, and unfortunately it's criminalized by the state of Iowa. That you boycott. So that's one of the things that we wanted to bring attention to, and anybody can talk to the representative and ask him, why are you taking my freedom of speech to support an apartheid system in Israel? So and again, this is another scare tactic, because they know that this is working, and they keep saying that the Palestinian had to, or the pro-Palestinian movement have to adopt a non-violent way of resisting the occupation, resisting the apartheid. And when they picked up boycotting, which is the purest kind of non-violent resistance, they start labeling them as terrorist activists or anti-Semitic, or then even created laws against them and make it look like it's anti-establishment, if you will, to boycott. But this is actually the purest of the pure ways of non-violent resistance, and I recommend that people look up the list of the BDS of the products that supporting the occupation and the apartheid system in Israel, and try to implement some of that boycott.
And I think it's so important because, like Yasser mentioned, there are laws that do not allow, like, businesses to boycott Israel. And I think even if you aren't pro-Palestine, don't know what's going on in Palestine, like,
definitely is free speech issue.
Yeah, like, this is an American issue. Like, in America, you have the right to boycott. You have a freedom of speech, and to block that is just so un-American, right? And it's just like, again, if you can don't even think of the Palestinian, like, movement at this point. Like, this is going against my freedom of speech. Why can I not say that I am fighting and boycotting Israel, right? And it's so mind-boggling to think that, like, this colonialism can come and impact us from such a far, like, place. I mean, I wouldn't ever expect, like, Egypt to, like, be doing this in America, right? Mm-hmm. But it's so interesting because, again, it's like, this is an American issue. Like, they are literally taking away our freedom of speech, regardless if you support Palestine or not. And I think Americans really need to start thinking about these things that the propaganda is feeding them, especially in the sense of boycotting and their rights in America. So,
in last week when we covered a little bit of these the legislation that has been passed in various states that strictly outlaw boycotting Israel if you have any affiliation with the American government. That's just another one of the ways that the U.S. has so, I guess, carelessly tied themselves in a conflict, and now that Israel is kind of abusing their privilege in the U.S. scene, America's kind of a little too afraid to back off because they're obviously heavily invested. I mean, these are in the contracts of, if you're affiliated with the city. Just last week, I know my mom is here in the Twitch chat. My mom was doing legal work for my hometown, the small town, McCamey, Texas. Population 2,000 people. 2,000 people in the middle of nowhere. Right. And she's looking at this contract for the city, and she found the clause. It said you cannot boycott Israel. Like, why would in the middle of nowhere? Middle of nowhere.
It's so interesting to look at. Like, it's just so,
it's intimidation.
It is, and it's the way they go about these things are very sly, right? And it's just like, it's not an obvious thing. Like, nobody looks at, me personally, I'm not looking at, like, a contract a lot of the time when I'm, signing my name on something. And so I think when you put it in this writing that people aren't really going to read because they assume and trust in their government, that, my government has my best interest in mind, right? But, in this regard, there is no one's best interest is in mind because you're taking away this freedom, this right that we have as Americans. And I think Israel does it very slyly, and I think that's obviously the point, because if we knew, or it was publicized that our tax dollars and all this money is going to Israel when we could be helping Americans get free healthcare or a free education system. It's harder to swallow when it's like, oh, my dollars are literally funding a genocide right now. But yeah, so it's so interesting to look into that and the legislation around it.
There was one thing at the conversation hour that happened about two-ish weeks ago now. One person brought up something, and I didn't say anything, but it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. He mentioned the tax dollars directly funding this genocide for the most part. If you pay taxes in America, you're funding the genocide. And so he kind of mentioned that as an American, I'm responsible for the genocide of Palestinians. I wanted to see, what are you guys' take on that? Because it left a bad taste in my mouth. It seemed like it was directing what should be a cause for Palestine and kind of refocusing it on guilt of Americans.
Right.
Yeah, I guess, unfortunately, we as an American taxpayers, we don't have control where the money goes. So I disagree that we are actually, I guess, responsible, but we need to hold our elected officials responsible for what they're doing with our tax money. And that's where we need to be talking to them, educating them, and if they're not changing the way that they're spending our tax money, instead of, as Jenna said, spending on free healthcare, free tuition for the students like you and Jenna, instead of that, sending it to kill babies, then we need to make it clear that we're not gonna give them our vote next time if they're not doing that. It's like me and you and Jenna, we don't have that direct control of where the money goes, but we have control of where our votes go, and then we need to make it clear to our elected officials that if they don't change that, then they're not going to be in their seat next time.
In addition to the thought of Americans indirectly contributing to the issue, is there anything else that I guess another form of activism in addition to boycotts and using our votes, is there anything that could, I guess, promote the idea of free Palestine?
Besides like protesting as well, I mean, I think protesting is it's almost an acquired taste, I would say. But I say this all the time. I mean, just don't shut up about Palestine. Continue to educate yourself, continue to support, continue to, talk to the people who are willing to learn and willing to have a conversation with you. I think that is the biggest form of activism, is just educating people on what Palestine is, what the Palestinian liberation is. And it's so important because, again, like I said, we are living in a bubble. We are living in just this world that does not acknowledge anything outside of America, outside of Iowa City. And I think once people start kind of talking about these things, the truth will surface. And like Yasser said at the beginning, like once you know the truth, you cannot unsee that, right? And it's just so important to continue to educate yourself and to continue to talk about Palestine with people, even if you're not Palestinian or directly affected by this issue.
And also, election is coming up. The presidential election, and Iowa is a stopping point for a lot of them at the beginning because of the, I guess because it's the first in the nation and so on. So make sure that you talk to the people that they come through Iowa. It's not necessarily just only politician within the Iowa legislation, but also to the presidential election and so on. Get involved. Our democracy will work if you participate in it, and make sure that you participate in those conversations, in the election conversation, and town halls and so on and so forth, and make sure that you voice your concern about what is happening in Palestine, the killing of the Palestinians, and the continuation of the oppression of the Palestinian people using our own tax money and our own weapon that according to our laws, the people that receive, or the countries that receive our weapon, they cannot use them against civilians, and Israel is doing that with impunity. So that's something that we need to start talking to our elected officials about.
Yeah, and I also think it's kind of important to also connect different oppressions. I think the Palestinian oppression is like the face of all oppressions right now. Like, you see at protests, you see indigenous people like Native Americans, you see Sudanese people, people from Congo. All these places are going through some sort of oppression, right? And I think it is very important to continue to connect those in your head, because I think that helps amplify the importance of talking about Palestine. And you look at, like, BLM movement. This is almost identical to the Palestinian resistance, and I think once you kind of connect these oppressions and find the parallels between them, it makes things a lot more important to you. And again, that's just like a form of activism. You don't shut up about these things. You keep talking about them so that people don't forget. But yeah.
In this book that I read last year called, it was a new release called Palestine Socialist Introduction by, I believe, Sumaya Awad and Brian Bean. There was one chapter closer to the end of the book that pretty much detailed how there's been long-term solidarity between the Black Panther Party back in the 70s and the Palestine Liberation Movement. And that felt so nice to see as a Black American and someone who cares about the Palestinian cause.
Right.
It felt like a nice handshake.
Right.
And so it kind of reaffirmed that solidarity. I guess
just to add to that, I guess even with the Black Lives Matters, and if you remember the St. Louis demonstration, with the brutality of the police against the black demonstrator and the gas, tear gas canisters and all that stuff, and the Palestinians actually, they were giving pointers from Palestine, pointers to the black demonstrator on how to deal with the tear gas and how to avoid it and how to. So it's the oppressor use the same tactics, and the oppressed people always find a way to avoid those oppression and build on the movement. So I guess and I was in downtown Iowa City demonstrating with the black people, because there is so much parallel between what was happening and what's still happening to the black American and what's happening to the Palestinians in Israel.
I think it's really important. I'm glad you brought that up. The kind of the highlight these underground tunnels that form between movements that kind of reinforce them. I know we are coming up on our time frame here, so I have two more questions, and they really have absolutely nothing to do with one another. So I'm going to throw this one out. I included it because I'm curious. What are your thoughts on the Gays for Palestine backlash? We see in the media, and I honestly think it's another one of those subliminal scare tactics, saying that Gays for Palestine is redundant, as if there's any group that cannot support the Palestinian cause. The thing being cited is, okay, if Palestine were a sovereign nation, then gay people would definitely not be accepted there. Is there any group that should be refraining or is not fully accepted in supporting Palestine?
I think that is huge misinformation and super false. It's interesting because, Palestine is a majority Muslim state, but there are other religions within Palestine. There's Christianity, Islam, Judaism, right? And I think with all those religions, not just Islam, there is huge relations with homophobia, right? But I don't think that's ever stopped anybody from being gay or part of the LGBTQ community. And there are gay, queer Palestinians. This is not something that is just because it is a majority Muslim state that nobody is queer or part of the LGBTQ community. So I think that's again just a fear-mongering tactic just to scare the LGBTQ community from coming out to support Palestine. Because again, our oppressions are related, even if you don't really see the clear signs. These are related movements. Our oppressions are very similar. But again, people in Gaza, there are queer people in Gaza. Like, there are queer people dying and being killed, right? So it's just funny to see that, because it's like, can Palestinians not be queer? Like, I didn't know that being gay or a part of the LGBTQ community was like solely for, white people or Zionist people. So like, it's just interesting to always hear that, because I think that's like huge misinformation. I think the LGBTQ community should definitely be in support of Palestine.
I think it seems very obvious, but apparently it's being missed by the media, that the thought of the only condition to human rights is being a human being. I don't think it has anything to do with ideological alignments. And so for the very last note, before we wrap this up, I want to ask, is there anything that you wish the media were covering? Anything being left out of the conversation of people with stake in the issue? Anything not being covered?
I guess the not only the how the media is covering the conflict, but is how our government is also lopsiding support of Israel, and that's the missing, even on the ground. What's happening now, and personally affecting me, is that my father is an American citizen. He was in Gaza visiting his kids, and he's trapped there. I'm in contact with the State Department trying to find out how can they help to get him out, and I'm not getting a lot of support or a lot of feedback. While at the same time, our government sent charter planes to evacuate Israeli American just the second day. Now it has been 35 days, and they are saying that, we're doing our best to get him out, but nothing is happening. And I'm reaching out to our elected officials and to the State Department, and even I'm involving lawyers to try to just get a visibility of what they are doing to get him out. And he's 84 years old. He had suffered stroke, and his health is fragile, especially now when there's no medical services, and I'm paying my fair share of taxes. I'm contributing to the community here. My dad is also an American citizen, and he was contributing to the society. And I'm really shocked the way that we are being discriminated against by our own government because we are just Palestinians, or we are not white, or whatever you wanted to name it. But it's just something that I need to highlight, because it's unfortunate that we are, even here in the United States, are treated as second or third class citizen.
Yeah, and I think the truth, honestly, is what I would love to see in the media. I think it's very biased towards Israel, and oftentimes I think post 9/11 we see a lot of Islamophobia, a lot of connection to terrorism as well. So I think just negating that and seeing the issue for what it is what I would love to see in the media. And just more representation of Palestinian people. You see plenty of Zionist Israelis on the media talking about what's going on, and a lot of the time it's very skewed and very just false.
For sure.
So I think for me, I would love to see more Palestinian representation, and again, just unbiased sources through the media. So.
Right. Well, I think that's about it. Thank you so much, Jenna, Yasser. Thank you so much for being here. This was a very productive conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
We was wrapping this up right now. I guess I wanted to end this off by saying nothing expressed today is reflective of KRUI. If you have any beef with anyone by the end of this, please direct all to me. If you have any comments, concerns, questions anything you'd like to see addressed on the show in the coming weeks, please reach out to me. All of my socials are the same. It's Lenny the Fool. That's LENY _the Fool. Direct contact with me. I respond to all messages that I get. And thank you so much for listening. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, back to your regularly scheduled tunes, everyone.
Thank you.
No, I'm glad we could help.
I was so nervous last night thinking, come on, I'm gonna disrupt the movement.
No, you did good. I think that was awesome.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yes,
guys
yes,
for
beginning.
being here, especially on such short notice. I'm so sorry I didn't have direct contact with you.
No,
It was kind of
that's
last
fine.
minute.
Yeah.
But thank you for
If
hopping
you
in
want
here.
my contact, I can write them down for you.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I'll definitely be doing more coverage in the future, and I'd like to, bring in more people if I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Participate.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anytime, reach out. I've been doing the round with the media, so I don't need much notice if you need to come in and do anything like that.
Can we exchange phone numbers? Would that be cool?
Yeah.
I'll give you my contacts.
319
319
333 5231.
That's 319-333-5231.
Correct.
All right. Cool.
Yeah, if you could give me a call so I can have your number too.
And do you go by Julia or?
Sweet Joanna's my radio name.
Okay.
My street name is Julia.
Okay. I know. I was about to say. I'm like, I don't want to be calling you the wrong thing if you go by something else. But
You're a Texas number, right?
Yes. That went through. All right. Well, I think I'm gonna stay and pack up. But
Yeah, you're
I
good.
can show you guys out. Man, that was really great. I'll be uploading the footage to YouTube, and I
Cool.
can send you guys a video.
Yeah, please. That'd be
Share with my
awesome.
Family, whatnot. That'd be cool. Let's see. Here. Okay. I don't know if anyone is even still in here. Sorry, the what is that? The visuals are a little off, but that went really well. And guys, we made it to the 45-minute mark. We used the entire hour. That's a first. That's a dub. I don't know if I'm sorry. Is that SUM? I'm not sure if you're still in here, but. Yeah, no problem. I speak out about this issue, share the issue, continue talking about the issue, take any notes you can from the show. Just, keep spreading correct information about the whole cause. But I need to get out of here because I think there are people coming in the studio after me. I will not be live on Twitch after this, unfortunately. But since we're on here for about a full hour, we'll just count that as the after chat as well. But enjoy the rest of your Saturdays, everyone. I'm going to be looking through these comments. I was not paying attention to the chat during this. I'm going to go through and look at these comments because I find them very fun. But yeah, goodbye everyone. Thanks for tuning in.